Two giants of the sky, America's F-35 Lightning II versus China's J-20 Mighty Dragon, have represented the pinnacle of modern air power. But what if I told you that debate is already over? Today, we are going to look at the secret technology developed for America's new F-47 sixth-generation fighter and how that tech is being immediately transferred to the F-35 fleet. Stick around, because we're going to break down the four critical failures of the J-20 that the new American strategy completely exploits. And we'll show you exactly why controlling 1,000 drones is exponentially more important than having a great engine. To understand why the F-35 needed a radical new upgrade, you first have to understand the geography of the next major conflict. Military strategists call this the tyranny of distance. When the F-35 was designed, it was primarily built for theaters like Europe. In Europe, bases are relatively close together, and conflicts happen over short distances. The F-35 is great for those kinds of short-range missions. But the vast Pacific Ocean, that's a completely different battlefield. American bases are often thousands of miles from potential conflict zones. Conventional fighters must travel enormous distances, operate far from support, and maintain air superiority across massive oceanic gaps. The F-35, while an incredible machine, was limited. Its combat radius is around 930 miles without refueling. That means to reach targets deep inside contested enemy territory, the F-35 frequently needs aerial refueling, which is risky and slows down operations. China knows this, and the J-20 was specifically designed to exploit this distance problem. The J-20 is a physically large aircraft. It's built that way to carry a large amount of internal fuel, giving it the necessary range to fight over the Pacific and reach American assets that might be operating far from shore. The J-20 is designed for long-range standoff combat. But here's the problem China didn't solve. And this is the first weakness America's upgrade exploits. The J-20 still fights alone. If the J-20 flies 1,000 miles, it's just one plane. If it gets damaged or runs into layered defenses, the mission fails. China built a big plane to solve a big problem, distance, but they didn't solve the complexity problem. This brings us to the second and perhaps most talked about problem: stealth. For years, China has invested heavily in creating the illusion that their J-20 fighter is an equal or even superior match for the F-35. When the J-20 first flew, it looked the part. Angular design, internal weapons bays, and a canopy shape clearly mimicking American stealth designs. China even quickly showed off videos of its J-36 and J-50 prototypes to suggest they were keeping pace with America's sixth-generation plans. But looking stealthy and being stealthy are two very different things. The F-35 and the older F-22 represent fifth-generation stealth. This is already incredibly effective at hiding from most radar systems. But China has been busy developing advanced air defense systems, such as the S-400 and S-500 systems obtained from Russia, specifically designed to counter these existing American aircraft. They are building radar networks that surround targets from every side, forcing fighters to hide from every angle. This is where the F-35 was starting to show its age. While highly stealthy, the F-35, like the B-2 bomber, was designed with a primary focus on avoiding detection from the front. For the J-20, the stealth technology is far more suspect. China's aircraft development still relies heavily on technology copied or stolen from other nations. Their fighter programs have historically struggled with reliable engine development, such as the WS-15 engines for the J-20, facing significant delays. Without the engine power and internal material science that America perfected over decades, the J-20's stealth is likely limited and vulnerable. So both the F-35 and the J-20 face the same reality. Traditional stealth is not enough anymore. This is where the new American sixth-generation standard completely changes the rules. The F-47 was designed with Stealth Plus. This is invisibility across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. That means hiding from radar, infrared sensors, and other detection methods simultaneously. The F-35, though fifth generation, needed a way to fight this new kind of invisible war against China without the full expensive overhaul of the F-47. It needed to borrow technology that gives it sixth-generation eyes and brains. But wait, if America has the F-47, which is far more advanced, why would they bother upgrading the F-35 to take on the J-20? The answer is simple: money and numbers. The most expensive aircraft in history, the F-47, while incredible, will be built in relatively small numbers. The Air Force plans to field about 200 F-47s. However, the US and its allies fly thousands of F-35s. For America to maintain air superiority globally against a wide range of threats, it cannot rely solely on the F-47 fleet. The existing F-35s must be brought up to a quasi-sixth-generation level. The massive upgrade that changes the entire war plan is the Collaborative Combat Aircraft Program, or CCA. The F-35, already an incredible sensor platform, is being upgraded to become the quarterback of an entire aerial team. Think of it this way: the F-35 stops being just a fighter jet and starts being a flying command center. Each F-35 pilot will soon be able to command multiple artificial intelligence-enabled drones, the CCAs, that fly alongside the manned fighter. This isn't a complex manual control system. The F-35's onboard artificial intelligence manages the entire formation, coordinating attacks, sharing sensor information, and making split-second decisions that a human pilot simply couldn't make alone. Let's look at the numbers for a moment. The Air Force plans to field 200 F-47s alongside 1,000 advanced drones. That's a 5-to-1 ratio of drones to manned fighters. When the F-35 receives this upgrade, even if it commands only 3 or 4 CCAs, the math changes completely against the J-20. If China sends in 10 J-20s, America can send in 10 F-35s, but each F-35 is flanked by 3 invisible, highly capable drones. That's 10 pilots commanding 40 aerial assets. The J-20 pilot is suddenly facing an overwhelming swarm of weapons, sensors, and decoys. This capability is the difference maker. The drones carry additional weapons, extending the effective firepower of the F-35. They serve as disposable decoys to confuse enemy defenses. If an enemy missile locks onto the formation, it might hit a drone instead of the manned F-35, protecting the pilot while still getting the mission done. They extend the reach of the F-35's sensors, painting a massive real-time picture of the threats across hundreds of miles. The F-35 is already the king of fifth-generation technology, but the CCA upgrade makes it a hybrid fifth-and-a-half-generation fighter that the J-20 simply cannot compete with. Now, you might be asking, why can't China do this? They have drones too, right? This is the most critical failure of the J-20 program, and it exposes the biggest weakness of China's entire military strategy. The third and fourth failures of the J-20 program are connected: electronic warfare and systems integration. The F-47 was designed to achieve electronic dominance, and that technology is baked into the operating systems that will control the CCAs for the F-35. Modern air combat is not just about firepower, it's about controlling the digital battlefield. If you can see the enemy, but they can't see you, you win. If you can talk to your team, but they can't talk to theirs, you win. The F-35's existing systems already catalog enemy radar signals and communications, but with the 6th-gen upgrades, the CCA-equipped F-35 doesn't just avoid enemy sensors, it actively manipulates them. Imagine this scenario: an F-35 sends a drone ahead. That drone, operating as an electronic phantom, begins creating false targets on enemy screens. The Chinese J-20 pilot receives confusing signals, seeing 3 or 4 phantom aircraft where there is only one. The F-35 pilot, meanwhile, has a perfect picture of the real battlefield because the drone network is feeding data directly back to them. China's J-20, while visually impressive, lacks the deep integration and advanced networking that defines this new warfare. Their systems often struggle with reliability and communication. China's entire air fleet is built on older, less integrated technology. The F-35, by contrast, operates on an open systems architecture. This means its software and hardware can be quickly updated and modified to integrate these new 6th-gen capabilities like CCAs without needing completely new airframes. This built-to-adapt design is exactly why the F-35 can receive this life-saving upgrade. China cannot achieve this speed of integration. China lacks America's decades of operational knowledge from the F-22 and F-35 programs regarding stealth operations, electronic warfare, and networked combat systems. They are essentially starting from scratch in many critical areas. Military analysts estimate that China's actual 6th-generation fighters won't achieve initial operational capability until the mid-2030s at the earliest. By that time, the F-35 will have been flying for years with this advanced CCA capability, and the F-47 will already be operational, running continuous upgrades based on real-world experience. The J-20 might look intimidating flying alone, but it cannot fight a swarm of networked, electronically dominant aircraft. The final, often forgotten advantage that completely seals the F-35's victory over the J-20 isn't a specific piece of hardware. It's the speed of American defense development. We talked about how the F-35 is designed to be continuously updated. This is part of the Air Force's overall plan to buy new fighters approximately every 8 years and replace them every 16 years. This ensures American technology stays ahead of rapidly evolving threats. The F-47 program demonstrates this speed perfectly. While China showed off its J-36 prototype in late 2024, America had already been secretly flying experimental versions of the F-47 for almost 5 years. When President Trump announced the F-47 program in March 2025, he wasn't revealing a future concept, he was declassifying a mature weapon system. Boeing could start manufacturing the first production F-47 just months after winning the contract. This timeline is crucial. The F-47 will be operational by the early 2030s. This capability sets an impossible standard for the J-20. The knowledge and technology gained from secretly flying the F-47 demonstrators since 2019 are immediately being applied to sustain and upgrade the F-35 fleet. This means the F-35 is getting the best parts of the future now to address present threats. China, by contrast, is years behind. Even if their J-20 engine problems are solved, they lack the industrial ecosystem and production scalability that America possesses. The US industrial base can quickly ramp up F-47 and CCA production to meet any threat level. The J-20 is a good 5th-generation fighter trying to catch up. The F-35 is a 5th-generation fighter using 6th-generation brains to control an army. The gap is not closing, it's widening. The CCA upgrade for the F-35 completely changes the war plan for several reasons. Massive force multiplier. A single F-35 pilot commands an entire formation of attack platforms, multiplying the plane's combat power by 4 or 5 times. Affordable dominance. Instead of spending $300 million per manned F-47 for every sortie, the F-35 uses cheaper, optionally disposable drones, making air power more sustainable. Risk reduction. CCAS act as decoys and sensor extensions, keeping the human pilot out of the most immediate danger. preserving lives and expensive manned fighters. Strategic flexibility. The F-35 can launch drone swarms hundreds of miles ahead, extending its effective range and overcoming the tyranny of distance even without the F-47's extreme range. The F-35 versus J-20 debate is a relic of the past. The F-35, with its new brain, is now a swarm coordinator. The J-20 remains a conventional target. The J-20 is destined to fight against an overwhelming, digitally dominant swarm that operates faster, sees farther, and hits harder than anything a single pilot could manage. The J-20 is built for a one-on-one fight. The F-35 is built to coordinate a team, and in modern warfare, the team always wins.